Hey, is that folk music that you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horse.
Don't hesitate. It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow.
All right, we're here at Horses Sing None of It. My name is Ralph Litwin, and you've been listening to some guitar picking by Rich Gilewitz.
How you doing?
Gilewitz. I got it right?
It's Gilewitz, Bob. I've been picking on this poor guy all day.
So, Richard, that was a world debut of that particular tune. Do you even have a name for that tune yet?
I've been given a lot of grief for calling it the Red-Nosed Clown. I think I might keep it at that just to irritate people a little bit. But who knows what it'll turn into. I'm not sure where titles come from. Some of them, I'll play Synapse Collapse later, and I've got too many stories for that.
Too many?
Well, we all have synapse collapses, you know, like when you can't operate Velcro. You're just in that state of mind. We enjoy those moments.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, we do.
Well, let me read some of your bio quotes here that are very nice. I remember reading on one of your CDs a quote from Leo Kottke says, "Richard Gilewitz is a weird guy."
Pot kettle black, right? I mailed him my fingernails. That's where I got that quote from. I used to use finger picks to little Freddy Krueger starter set, and then he told me to stop using them, so one of my thumbnails went twang and flew off. So I drew a picture of a hand on a notebook paper. You didn't ask for this story, by the way, but you're getting it. And I super glued the thumbnail where it should go, and I addressed it to Leo's nail repair shop. And I scotch taped 2 quarters to the page and wrote on there, "Please allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery," and sent it to his record company. And he kept the nail, actually, for quite a while. And when I had told that story to Larry Coryell, a great jazz player, I told him that story in a Tulsa airport because, what else is there to talk about? And he looked at me when I was done, and he said, Leo's got a nail repair shop? So, like, I have a point. What was your question?
I forget. But you better be careful. If he ever goes into witchcraft, he's going to have body parts of yours already
I've offered to
on
send
file
him
there.
little Richard voodoo dolls for Christmas, but haven't done it yet.
So you're good buddies with Leo, and he's covered a bunch of your compositions here on his recordings, I guess.
Well, he did. There was a tune I wrote called Echoing Wilderness, and it was about an 8-minute tune, and he didn't like the first 5 minutes of it, so he just truncated that. And the last 3 minutes he recorded and called it Echoing Gilewitz, and I just found out it's going to be used in a movie.
All right.
I think they were kind of operating on a Blair Witch budget, but we'll see what happens. So.
Cool. Well, let's save some of this talk for after another tune. Why don't you
Okay.
give us another tune?
Okay, this is a tune I wrote called the Maison Blanche Exit Song, which I wrote for getting kicked out of a French cuisine restaurant in Washington, D.C. for not wearing socks. And I might inflict you onto this tune, too, a little bit. But it was going to be called Idle, Choke, Sputter, and Die, and named after a car I had because I liked the keys in the car. But I had the added attraction of the keys being in the ignition with the engine running. So I sat on the curb and watched my car run out of gas.
So I'm supposed to inflict in the key of E on this one, is that right?
That's the one. I just have you here so if it goes wrong, I have somebody to blame. Thank you.
And what number was that now?
That was called the Maison Blanche Exit Song.
Maison Blanche.
Yeah,
And some or except for that first song, these songs can be found on your albums, I imagine.
I like to call them CDs, but
Compact discs.
I actually put out an album. I have one out about 12 years ago, and I found it in a Goodwill store. in Jacksonville, Florida, and it was in the same bin with Elvis, and I was beaming with pride because my album was $2 and Elvis's was $1.
And these information about these can be found on your website, which is the address?
It's songs.com, songs.com/Gilewitz, which is spelled blah, 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 blah. It's, what is it, Gilewitz?
That's a good guess for a guy who has that as his last name.
Yeah, it's, so just do songs.com and find me on there. So.
Okay, and hopefully we'll have the graphics together before this is aired, so that will flash on the screen.
That's the best part, is winging it. In fact, I think I'll wing it to another guitar here.
All right.
That last tune was my dog's favorite tune, and that meant something to me till I found out she was fond of pig ligaments. Then I don't value her opinion anymore.
So, a couple of your other credits here. Musician Magazine mentioned you as a young guitarist to watch in their issue heralding the return of acoustic guitar. I didn't know that the acoustic guitar ever left, but they were returning.
Yeah.
And you've appeared on several nationally syndicated radio shows, including one that's hosted by our next guest,
Michael Jonathan.
Michael Jonathan. And you've headlined at national festivals, including Riverbend in Chattanooga, Willamette Valley Folk Festival in Eugene, Oregon, Black Mountain Festival in North Carolina, and Suwannee Spring Fest and South Florida Folk Festivals in Florida.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Did you ask me a question?
No, I was just reading your credits.
I appreciate it. It's a strange life, you know. I really wanted to be a drummer. I did, and
So you could cart around about 1,000 pounds worth of stuff.
I was 6 years old. I didn't even think about it. But 5 minutes after my mom heard that, she went out and bought me a guitar and told me to, play guitar. You could pick up girls at the beach, which I thought was funny. Being 6 years old. It's like, well. But I guess I should play another tune for you. This one I talked about, Synapse Collapse. This is one that I wrote when I was just sitting there pounding on the guitar like this, watching, television. I like to watch sports on TV. I'm the only guy who could pull a muscle watching sports on TV. But a synapse collapse is when you're in that state of mind. Say you're in the grocery store and you're going to sign a check and you forget your name. And you don't even think to look in the left-hand corner for like a clue. And so hopefully with this tune, I put people in that spot. And I tried to hypnotize my dog with this one once, and she just fell asleep in about 5 minutes. I went into a trance and played it for 3 hours, so thought I should record it. Did you have any questions?
No, go right ahead.
Plugging along here. I spend too much time alone in the car wondering whether or not flies have necks.
Do they?
It's a big debate now. We're discussing it. Biologists agree with the people who tortured them as children. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Synapse Collapse. Our artist today is Richard Gilewitz on the guitar and a funny mouth. So you travel a
You're
lot.
not allowed to reach behind you this time for your next question.
There's
No, I
no
don't
questions on that sheet. It just makes me feel comfortable to have somebody.
No, go ahead. Get
You
it.
travel a lot.
Yeah, that's why I called my first CD Voluntary Solitary. It is. It's, I like it. It's, I'm kind of an extremist, I guess, and so I like to spend a lot of time at home and then go out for a long tour. The last tour I did last fall was about 10 weeks in a row with about a 4-day break. I called it the Blair Gilewitz Project. I'm going to drool on myself. That's what happens to you when you travel too much. So yeah, I forgot your question once again, but
About traveling a lot.
yeah, I mean,
11 months a
it
year.
really becomes like Groundhog Day. I mean, you wind up, same thing every day. It's like wake up, find food, travel, go do a sound check, play, find food, find your hotel, go to sleep. Wake up the next day. There might be a plane involved here or there, but that's about it. So I try and get as much time in playing as I can, but more of that happens, when I'm at home than not. I've never drooled on a TV show. I'm kind of proud of that. I didn't know I could do that. I hope that came out.
Maybe they got
It's
a
a cough
close-up
drop.
of it.
That's all it is. I endorse these too. They just don't know it.
Oh, that's right. Your endorsements, maybe we should mention. GHS Strings.
GHS Strings and PV. I'm pushing their acoustic guitars and their sound systems, so I've been fortunate enough that I travel around and do some guitar clinics and show people how to, do what I do, which usually takes about 10 minutes, but I stretch it out with some of their questions. I actually wanted to be a harmonica player. It's interesting you play that because I've never played with a harmonica player before, and I got one when I was in Boston once. And this is true, I blew on that for about a month, and then a real harmonica player came up and saw me, and he said, "Hey, Gilewitz, did you know if you breathe in, you get all the other notes?" He said, "You could ride down the road and hold it out the window and get what you're doing." So I don't play that anymore.
Well, you could have just taken his advice and learned how to breathe in through the thing, right?
Nah, my cover was blown.
Your cover was
Yeah. Or who was it? I think Woody Allen said he tried to play Flight of the Bumblebee on a tuba once and almost blew his liver out through the horn. So I thought I'd just stick with the guitar.
Very well. Well, you sound good on it.
Oh, thanks. Let's see. I was going to do this tune here. This has got a little bit of slide in it, and this is one I wrote called Dirt to Dust, and a friend of mine was giving me grief about titles. He said, "Stop doing all those cutesy titles, like Voluntary, Solitary, and Synapse Collapse." He said, "Why don't you just call a song either Dirt or maybe Dust?" So I thought, okay, I'll call this Dirt to Dust. But it's kind of, as far as songwriting composition, I was going to say competition. I always thought, what is competition? Is that where guitar players get together and wrestle? But this tune, for composition, I always like the element of surprise when something shows up in a tune where maybe it wasn't expected. And so I throw the slide into the middle of this, and that launches into the landscape of the end part, where when I do this tapping, supposedly, or at least in my mind, it's kind of a cross between Clint Eastwood and Dr. Zhivago, because you should feel like you're stuck in a desert but really cold if I do it right. So
Okay, we'll see if it
I'll do
emotes
for you.
that.
I'm hoping I can drool again for you. I'm real proud of that. I should work on that. I should also stop talking about it, shouldn't I?
Go ahead and play the thing. Play that thing, white boy.